What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And with the international break in full swing, not much has been going on, but Newcastle have finally appointed a new manager. Former Bournemouth manager Eddie Howe has signed a contract until 2024 to be the club's first appointment under the new ownership. Joining me to discuss this and all things related to Newcastle is big Newcastle fan and YouTuber Proudlock. Mate, thanks very much for joining me. Let's get right into it. I mean, Eddie Howe, he's officially unveiled as the Newcastle manager, confirmed this afternoon. The club, obviously sacked Steve Bruce. Firstly, what were your thoughts on Bruce and what he did at the club?
It was a torrid time under Steve Bruce. The 2.5 years he was at the club, his tactics were so negative. His style of football was terrible. He would set up very defensively in a football match. Majority of his formations were a 5 at the back, and it just never seemed to pay off. We weren't pushing forward. All the players were nearly all together in their own half, couldn't get out of it. And we really struggled under Steve Bruce. And I think relegation would have been a possibility if we kept this manager in charge. We were certainly going nowhere. His match comments were inexcusable. Every time he would come out with the same old rubbish, and we were just completely fed up with it. And he had to be gone. As soon as he had his 1,000 game against Spurs, I think the owners knew it was time to pull the trigger on him. I
mean, yeah, it's taken a few weeks to obviously find the new manager and confirm the appointment. How do you feel the club's new owners have handled that search for a new manager? Because obviously very public that Unai Emery was kind of the favoured choice, but he ultimately turned it down. I mean, reports of talks with Paulo Fonseca as well. Are you disappointed that the Emery thing didn't materialise?
I am, yeah, but I'm kind of not surprised that he decided not to want to take the job. I mean, he's in a job where he's won the Europa League with Villarreal and he's got them into Champions League football this season. So you can understand why. I mean, he was probably very flattered to be honoured the job, but he was happy at Villarreal, and you can understand.
I mean, do you think then that Eddie Howe was perhaps the best that Newcastle could get, given the current situation they're in?
Possibly, yes. I mean, it's an understandable move. It's quite smart. I mean, I think he's done really well with Bournemouth. I know there'll be a lot of our fan base say, but he relegated him in his final season, which I'm not going to really buy into that, because he took that side from League Two all the way up into the Premier League. He's like to go very attacking minded when he sets up his team, and that's what I'm looking forward to, because I've been sick of all this defensive style of play. And I think he really can get the players playing in the correct positions and get them to attack. He's worked with Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser and Matt Ritchie as well. So hopefully he can get more out of the best out of them as well. I'm really looking forward to see what he can do at the club. He's a young manager, and I think he'll really progress throughout the Premier League. I mean, look at Graham Potter. There was a lot of people writing him off, and look at what he's doing at Brighton. He's doing fantastic. So I think Eddie Howe can go down that same way.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that he's a top manager. And as you mentioned, I think, people just focus on the fact he went down with Bournemouth in his last season, but he took them, as you mentioned, through all the leagues, kept them in the Premier League for 4 seasons. He's a good manager. I think this could be, personally, I think this could be a good fit, but the table doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie.
Newcastle really struggling this season.
We really have. I mean, again, it's all down to Steve Bruce. The previous owner, Mike Ashley, there was no investment, or there was very little investment. I mean, we've already brought in Joe Willock this season, whose confidence looks really shot a bit at the moment, who's not where he's picked off from last season. And again, that's all coming back down to haunt us because of that happening at the football club. It's majority the same side of last season. And again, we're really setting up with defensive displays. We're defensively open at the back. We're conceded really poor goals. And yeah, it doesn't lie. We're 19th there for a reason. And that is why change needed to be at the football club in terms of management and ownership as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, look, I think Newcastle haven't actually been that bad going forward this season, but
No,
defensively, it's just
it's
been
been horrible.
it's
I
been
mean,
terrible.
it has. I mean, we've got a captain, Jamal Lascelles, who's not a leader out on that pitch. I mean, you want to see a captain when we're 1-0 down to try and big him and thinking, come on, we need to try and keep this going. But then our heads would still drop. And Kieran Clark, I think, over time he stayed now. I think his legs are going a little bit. I must say, Emil Kraft, I do not rate the guy at all. I think he's one of the worst defenders we're bringing this football club. Matt Ritchie's not a defender. I don't know why he's been playing there. And it's, again, been the same defence we've had under Steve Bruce, and same these defenders have been under Rafa Benitez as well. And it's really come back to bite with why we've not looked to replace these defenders when we've had them in for a while. And they're the same ones for the past few seasons.
I mean, arguably, it's the same defence that come up from the Championship.
It is, yeah. Clark was in the Championship. Jamal Lascelles, it was.
I mean, obviously, Eddie Howe's got a big job on his hands. I mean, it's a couple of months still until the January window opens. There's no doubt going to be investment then. But do you think that Eddie Howe, as a manager, can get more out of these players than Steve Bruce did? Do you expect to see a upturn in results pretty instantly, or do you think it could take a few games for him to get going as well?
I think he will try and look to get the best out of players. I think he will look to change his formation. I think he doesn't like this 5 at the back, which I'm delighted about. So you will look to go away from that and definitely go with more attacking, because I think we have got a decent enough squad, but it was just badly managed. A lot of the time, players playing out of position. I think the fans will get behind him on his first game of the season when we take on Brentford. It's not going to be an easy game because I think Brentford have done all right this season, but you would look to think it should be a game we're looking to win, but it's going to be hard. But I think it will take time for Eddie Howe to get this squad gelling. He's going to have to really get them in for training as well.
I mean, do you think the remit for Eddie Howe is as simple as keep us in a division and then and then we build from next season?
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, going to be staying in the Premier League throughout the remainder of the season, the way the season's gone on. Again, we're sitting 19th in the table. It doesn't lie, because we've been really poor. So, yeah, it's going to be that. If we could have a good cup run as well, possibly, that wouldn't be bad. FA Cup run would be decent. But, yeah, it's going to be the main focus of staying in the Premier League for next season.
And obviously, with the January window coming up, I mean, the playing squad, as you know, as many Newcastle fans, the playing squad is not good. It's not. It's terrible. I mean, arguably, if you're looking at it, I know you can't clear it all out in one go. It's going to take several windows. But you look at it, and for me, I think you keep Callum Wilson, Alan St. Maximin, and Joe Willock. Everyone else, you could arguably be got rid of. I mean, where do you think in January are going to be the key areas to invest in order for you to stay in the league?
It's probably gonna, so far you could say, pretty much all around the squad, apart from the goalkeeper. And I think that's all right. I mean, Darlow hasn't really put a foot wrong. All right, Freddie Woodman struggled at the season, but of course we've got Dubravka back as well, so he could come in at any point. Who's a top class goalkeeper for us. But defensively, it does need sorting out. The centre backs, again, it's because we're leaking in goals. We're playing the same defence. Clark, again, as I mentioned, finished. Lascelles, just not a leader. Fernandez, again, he's knocking on a bit now. Fabian Schär as well. So that area, the midfield's been non-existent. Shelby finished. He's just doing all these Hollywood passes, which just simply aren't paying off. Hayden can have a little bit of his off game. Sean Longstaff looks like he's gone backwards a bit. Now Joe Willock's really shot on confidence as well. Up front, I would say needs sorting, because Callum Wilson is probably an injury away from happening, and again, because he has been known to be very injury prone, and again, we don't have any backup to fulfill him. And when he's out the squad, we really struggle to score for goals. Joe Linton for me is not a striker. Well, Dwight Gale is not getting a look in at the moment. Well, I think he's more suited for the Championship there than the Premier League. So it's pretty much going to have to be all the way around the squad, because again, a lot of these players have been here for a very long time. Over time they stay. And it's definitely time to move a lot of these on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there should be a lot of money to spend in January, you would expect. I mean, I don't think Eddie Howe's going to take the job without the promise of major investment in January. I mean, would you expect that to be there?
Possibly. I would say we'll spend hundreds and hundreds of millions, but I think we'll spend in areas which definitely need sorting out. So you could see around up to between 50 to 100. That would possibly be so bad, because a lot of the transfer gets more expensive every season now. So,
I mean, how important is it for this whole project and the takeover that Newcastle actually stay in the Premier League this season? Would it be an absolute disaster for this takeover and the projects they've got in mind if you were to go down?
I think if we did go down, I think the owners will look to make sure we do get back up, and I think they would make sure they invest in the right players. I think Eddie Howe, if he stayed, that he would be a want to get one back up. But it's about not just investment around in the squad, it's other things like the stadium. It needs a lot of refurbishment. There's a lot of that needs painting around. There's a lot of rustiness. One time in the Gallagher, there was a dead pigeon in there for a canny few years. As well, the training facilities need sorting out. They're an absolute farce completely. I mean, whoever sees a Premier League side doing cool downs and wheelie bins and paddling pools these days?
Yeah, no, that's not acceptable at all.
But it's not.
I mean, I think that the owners, I think they will invest, and I think they obviously invest in the infrastructure, etc., as you mentioned. But another area that Newcastle seems to be moving forward with a little bit is a technical director. They seem to be pretty close to appointing Michael Emenalo, who was obviously very prominent at Chelsea a few years back. Do you think that's the kind of position that the club need to fill?
Yep. Really, really massively, because we've still got Lee Charnley here, who is as much use as what a glass hammer is as well. Never heard the guy speak only once, I believe, from when he said when they were going to offer free season tickets round about late 2019, because again, a lot of fans decided to stay away after Rafa left. And I think no one knows what Lee Charnley does a lot of the time at the football club, but again, his decision makings have been absolutely appalling. As well. Again, we've appointed other poor managers. Steve McLaren was one of them in England who couldn't get them into a tournament. They thought Pardew's assistant, John Carver, was going to fulfill and do a good job. Went on a roll of 8 defeats in a row. So a director of football is what we really need as well at the club as well.
And just to wrap up, mate, do you, casting forward to kind of end of the season time, do you feel that Newcastle will have got enough to stay up this season? Do you think the structure's there for them to do it?
I think they can stay up if Eddie Howe gets the right formation. He goes with an attacker-minded, and the players go for it, and they play for him. There's a possibility, and if we do get the right players in January, I think the season will look a little bit more brighter for us, and we should be okay until the end of the season.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting times at St James's Park. Should be the feel-good factor back. And now you kind of almost feel that the project begins now. Bruce is out. They've got their first new appointment, and hopefully Eddie Howe can, move Newcastle forward. Because I think from a neutral perspective, the Premier League needs a strong Newcastle United. So if they can get themselves together, start to become a force again in the next few years, and it makes the Premier League better as a spectacle. But I mean, Proudlock, thanks so much for joining me, mate. That's just obviously
anytime at all. Thank you very much for having me.
Newcastle fan reaction to the Eddie Howe appointment and kind of what to expect for the club for the rest of the season. I will drop the Proudlock's YouTube channel in the description below. Make sure you hit that button, subscribe. Guys, smash a like on this video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.